and undid the top of the bikini, so it didn't look as if I got anything on at the top. And they put a book over my bottom. And my mother was absolutely furious because it was called Foreign Affairs, the book.
For James Earl Jones, who was appearing in The Merchant of Venice with George C. Scott, Kubrick provides the opportunity to make his screen debut.
He had come to see George C. Scott. He knew he wanted to use George as the Air Force general. And I happened to be playing Prince of Morocco. And I think all along he wanted to have the bomber crew made up of all the ethnics, you know, a Jewish guy, black guy, an Irish guy, Canadian guy, and so on. When I read the script, Zoggy was the only one to question the possibilities that this is a security test, that we were not supposed to bomb Russia.
Major Kong, is it possible this is some kind of loyalty test, you know, give the go code and then recall to see who would actually go?
There was quite an exchange between the bombardier and the captain of the crew about that. And for some reason, Kubrick decided not to have that exchange happen. And one day I got to the set and realized that scene was being cut. I was very disappointed because I thought, well, that's what made my character stand out.
Kubrick assists Canadian actor Shane Rimmer in one of his early film roles.
I found him terrifically approachable, very understanding, and very helpful, and very quiet. The funny thing was, you'd be talking to him, and you'd notice him looking at you, like a Look magazine camera. He's just studying you. And he'd sort of shift a bit and walk around here and pick up another angle.
Keenan Wynn's brief but memorable role as a loyal but dense soldier provides a highlight of the film when Mandrake pleads with him to break into a soda machine.
Colonel, that Coca-Cola machine, I want you to shoot the lock off it. There may be some change in there.
That's private property.
During filming of Dr. Strangelove, Stanley Kubrick learns that another project with a similar theme is going into production. Although the film version of Failsafe is to be an ultra-realistic thriller, Kubrick fears that the similarities in overall plot will hurt Dr. Strangelove at the box office, especially if the rival film is released first. Kubrick is concerned because Failsafe will be a prestigious film headed by top actors including Henry Fonda and Walter Matthau. It also boasts an acclaimed director, Sidney Lumet.
We started casting. Fonda was already set, and which of course meant a big commitment in terms of money. I was set, Walter was set, and suddenly this lawsuit arrived, filed by Stanley Kubrick and Columbia Pictures.
Kubrick and Columbia try to stop production on Failsafe by claiming that the source novel had been plagiarized from Peter George's Red Alert.
The plots were vaguely similar, but totally different approach, and we handled it that way. Failsafe was much more of a melodrama.
Kubrick's strategy works. Although highly acclaimed by critics, Failsafe opens long after Strangelove to modest box office results. With their legal troubles behind them, the spirits of the cast and crew are lifted by a set visit from Cary Grant. Principal photography is completed in late spring of 1963, and Kubrick turns his sights to creating a captivating opening title sequence.
I was in Stanley's hideaway, hanging around, and then he asked me, what do I think about human beings? And I say one thing about humans, that everything that they invent is very sexual. And we looked at each other, yeah, B-52 refueling, of course. He said, well, we could shoot it, I have the models. And I said, well, let me take a look at some of the stock footage. So I went around to all the stock houses, and they had tons. I cut the sequence together to give you the sexual, the two planes fornicating in top of midair. And then he looked at it, he came up with this song. It was an instrumental of Try a Little Tenderness, and we put it together. It was amazing. And we put the title over here, and I put the title over there, and then you didn't know whether to watch, the title or the background, and it looked terrible. And then I said, well, suppose I come up with another idea about making like the twos big, the word by big, because it looks like we have to fill the screen in order for you to see two things at once. And then Stanley looked at it, I wanted to have an assistant work my lettering over so it'd be nice and neat. He says, no, I like the way you did it. So I said, okay. After I did it, we shot it and worked out great, and everybody loved it, he loved it. After 2 or 3 months the film was released, I got a phone call from Stanley, and he says, Pablo, do you know you misspelled a word? I said, what? I did. I said, yeah, based on the book. There's no D on based.
With the titles complete, the remainder of the film has to be scored. Laurie Johnson and his orchestra have to maintain a fine balance in their composition for the film.
The main purpose of the score was to try and link with one arc the drama from the first cut to the first interior of the bomber. Right up to the last one when the bomb's dropped.
Target in sight. Where in hell is Major Kong?
So that every time, although comedy is being played out on the screen, each time one returns to the bomber, the audience have to feel that it's a step nearer. The tension had to mount very, very slightly and very gradually over that. And each time the audience come back, whilst they may have just been loosened up by the comedy of it, something has to tell them subconsciously that inexorably you're going towards the main event.
The climax to Dr. Strangelove turns out to be the most famous, unseen sequence in the history of motion pictures. Kubrick shoots the ultimate slapstick sequence, a cream pie fight which reduces the war room to chaos. From the beginning, it is doubtful as to whether it will be left in the final cut.
The studio had told them that early on, that we know what you're going to try to do. It's going to be one take only. And of course, since they were laughing, it was unusable, because instead of having that totally black, which would have been an amazing, like this blizzard, which in a sense is metaphorical for all the missiles that are coming as well, you just have these guys having a good old time. So, as Kubrick later said, it was a disaster of Homeric proportions.
The cream pies were flying around so thickly that people lost definition, and you couldn't really say whom you were looking at.
Kubrick opts to cut the ambitious pie fight sequence and end the film with the image of the miraculously reinvigorated Dr. Strangelove.
Mr. President, I would not rule out the chance to preserve a nucleus of human specimens.
It was a much better line to end the film on when, galvanized by his return to Nazi power and also the proposition of a lot of sex in the bunker, where the chosen leaders of the free world will be quartered after the hydrogen bomb has fallen on the rest of us, Dr. Strangelove actually rises out of his chair like Lazarus from his grave.
I have a plan. Monsieur! Has it worked?
During the final editing, we were about to dub the film, and the last reel of the film, which is the most complicated, which is the bomb run with Slim Pickens, which is hundreds of little cuts. It vanished from the labs, and it never was found. I was devastated because it had taken months to cut. It was enormously complicated. So I had to recut the whole bloody thing in about 2 weeks from memory. And I remember Stanley did this brilliant thing of cutting up the script, and everything was put on cards on an enormous board, and we reconstituted the whole thing and started from scratch.
As Kubrick prepares to screen Dr. Strangelove for critics, he finds the film has a rendezvous with destiny. The screening date is November 22nd, 1963.
Like everything else in America, the events of November 22nd, 1963, John F. Kennedy's assassination, moved everything, shook everything up.
We decided for obvious reasons that we better cancel the preview. Stanley was there, and Stanley readily agreed. In fact, he may have even been the first one to suggest canceling, but Stanley had a more specific reason, because unlike the rest of us, Stanley knew the dialogue.
Our president has just been assassinated, and now we're going to see the president of the United States portrayed in the film having to make momentous decisions about the future of not only his country, but of the whole world. And it was very much on everyone's mind as to how the public would react to this so soon after.
They also had to change a line in the film, which was when the pilot, Slim Pickens, is going through the content survival check, and he's saying, you know, prophylactics, lipstick, nylon stockings. Then he says, hell, a fella could have a pretty good time in Dallas with all that stuff. And of course, you look at his, he had to loop in, and the line now is Vegas.
Shoot, a fella could have a pretty good weekend in Vegas with all that stuff.